And we're back on Singapore tonight. Bread and butter issues are expected to remain top of mind for Singaporeans as they prepare to cast their votes. Richa Mathew reports.
Markets were rattled after US President Donald Trump announced sweeping tariffs at the start of the month. Since then, there have been reversals, tit-for-tat moves and an escalating trade war with China. The situation is casting a shadow not just over Singapore's economy, but also the coming general election.
We look at the evolving tariff war. It is, to me, an international issue that has domestic implications, right? Because it affects Singapore's trade, as an export-dependent country. We can certainly see the tariff war raising bread and butter concerns, right? Because goods and services, are probably going to become more expensive.
So now the question is, how does it translate electorally? Again, I am unsure about that. I am unsure whether you will see people being scared off enough, because even though tariffs do hurt Singapore, I am not sure whether voters see the immediacy of it. As opposed to 911, they saw the immediate crisis. As opposed to the pandemic, it's immediate. Whereas the effects of tariffs will take a bit of time. Depending on when the election is, I don't know whether it will really play a crucial role.
Experts agree that bread and butter issues like housing affordability and jobs will be dominating the voters' mind as they get ready to head to the polls. And that's simply because these matters are what people confront daily. Above all, the high cost of living is expected to be prominent, and political parties know the stakes. The ruling People's Action Party, or PAP, had rising costs among its priorities at this year's budget. It gave households vouchers and rebates, while businesses got tax rebates and wage support. The conversation during the hustings, however, could shift to whether more radical action is needed.
Going beyond, government help schemes, such as CDC vouchers, utilities rebate and all, I think there will be the contest, over whether these relief measures are really symptomatic. And so the question of whether, there could be efforts, to deal with the root causes, particularly domestic causes of high cost of living.
Opposition parties are expected to be loud on this issue, even as they campaign on their pet topics.
The Workers' Party probably did an effective strategy when they brought up the GST hike. And I think just looking at, and I try to monitor online sentiments as much as possible, try to talk to as many people as possible. And it does seem that the GST hike is pretty unpopular. The SDP, for instance, especially Professor Tombaya, will bring up healthcare. I think actually that could resonate with a lot of people, especially an aging population. We'll see how that goes. The PSP has also brought up some issues which I think could be potentially electorally useful for them. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking immigration is probably is going to be one of the most important issues in this election.
We can expect, every opposition party, in a way to make that united front challenge, against the ruling party, on all these key issues. Because the PAP will be up against, the entire opposition across the island, if I can put it that way. So we can expect, these issues, to be prominently articulated.
But beyond these issues, political watchers believe one other factor could weigh on voters' minds. The coming polls will be Prime Minister Lawrence Wong's first as the PAP's leader.
This is, in part, a referendum on him. I say in part because he's only been Prime Minister for not too long, and a lot of the issues that he's inherited is really not due to him, like the cost of living and so on. But as a Prime Minister, he's front-facing this, so even though it's not his doing, but probably voters will see this as an opportunity to give a referendum on him, but also on the 4G leadership.
Mr. Wong has taken part in 3 previous general elections, including in 2011 when he entered politics.